at MLK, but MBA challenged all of the schools in the area to up their game. We have 1,100 kids in our school. We can't educate every kid, but what we've said years ago is that every kid deserves a high quality education. So for the ones that we can't educate, we're going to force the other schools to up their game so that all of the schools in the North Memphis area are positive so that every kid gets an opportunity for a high level education. So education is the number one thing, and City Hall has to get back into education, not from a contractual standpoint, but from a very creative standpoint. And we have to affect Nashville where you are so that legislation can get back involved, so we can create legislation that allows us to get back involved in public education as well as pre-K work. So education, I think everything stems from that. So shame on any politician who says that education is not important and city government should not be involved in it.
What is your vision for the district?
Well, we've already stated it. It is, first of all, on day one, as I've already said to multiple people, I will challenge City Hall to find creative ways to get back involved in public education. That is essential. I do not believe that a city can rise without educating properly or giving people the opportunity to be job ready or college ready when they finish school at 17 or 18. So we have to network with Shelby County Schools to create better opportunities for all of our residents. Secondly, I think that will then impact crime. I think in every community, especially even Fraser with 50,000 residents, there are 200 people that keep the crime rate up. So I'm not anti-police or anything like that, but I don't think we have to spend enormous amounts of money building more prisons and bringing more police in. We track and figure out who those 200 people are and help to hopefully rehabilitate them per se to get them to another place. But then with the other 49,500, we figure out how to give better job opportunities. We have not maximized what's happening at the Nike plant yet.
All right.
We have not, and there are great opportunities to spin off of what is happening at Nike and make the Fraser community, a lot of the Fraser community in North Memphis and Douglas benefit from that.
Do you have a specific plan for the district?
Yes, and we're talking about it again. We've dealt with it from a job standpoint, from an educational standpoint. I want to look at the budget of the city government. I haven't really broken it down yet. There's some efficiency or lack of efficiency there that we need to take a look at. There's some fat in the budget that we can cut out. But I will work with the new administration. We have a new mayor. The reality is those of us who will come on the city council will have to work with them. So we're developing a budget as we take a look at what are some of the things that they're going to do. Let me say for the record, the budget that is in existence now will not be the budget in January because newly elected Mayor Strickland is already looking at cuts and how he is going to affect the budget. So there are going to be a lot of changes already that are taking place that we're going to have to adjust to.
What are your thoughts on speaking of new mayor and new administration, what are your thoughts on the police and fire pensions?
I would have done the same thing that the city council did. I think that was the bravest move the city council ever took, actually. This city and the way that we allow people to earn pensions is antiquated. So we are working off an antiquated system that we had not made adjustments to. We have a tax-based problem in this city. We cannot afford the type of decisions that were made 35 years ago. We cannot afford to maintain those. So I would not vote to revisit that. I think that those were some bold moves because we have to focus on creating a stronger tax base than continuing to pay out money and painfully even to quite a few people who don't even live in the city anymore. So I would have done the same thing and will not revisit that in the city council at this time until we create a stronger tax base.
Right. Okay. And I'm going to add a question to this because it begs that What are some alternatives that you see to generating revenue for the city coffers? Of course, most people scream blood and murder when you talk about raising taxes, and then you had such a controversial situation with the pensions and trying to ensure that the budgets can be met. And,
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on? And I'm sorry for throwing this one at you.
Well, you're going to throw it at both of us, right?
Throw it at everybody.
All right.
Absolutely. And I'm looking around for a pen. If you can bear with me for 1/2 of a second.
No problem. And
think about it.
No, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
No, it's a fair question.
On generating, how do we generate additional revenues for the city?
Well, again, I think we have to be, Touche, we have to be creative, first of all, and we know that. We have a tax-based problem. I answered the question when I was interviewed by the Chamber. I am personally not opposed, even though strong businesses are, to a type of payroll tax or revenue sharing entity. So I think that we have to, we're competitive whether we like it or not with DeSoto County, West Memphis, and even Collierville and Eads and Germantown. But we respect the fact that people have the right to live where they want to live and send their kids to schools that they want to send their kids to school in or at. But it is up to leaders to figure out a way to create revenue. The city does not have the tax base. That's factual. We have infrastructure problems that we have to deal with tomorrow. You, as one who owns property in Memphis, multiple properties in Memphis, you cannot tax us any more than you can tax us. We are taxed out. So you cannot raise the property taxes. I think legally you cannot raise the property taxes anymore because we've maxed that out. So we have to create some, and then we cannot have regressive taxes. Gas taxes, food taxes are taxes against the poor. You cannot tax against the poor anymore because we're taxed out. At some point, when you add more taxes to gas and food, you're taking away from the very ones that need more revenue. So that tax is done as well. The only alternative really at this point is to be more competitive with a type of payroll tax to an extent that allows us to look at workers who work in the city but do not live in the city. I understand businesses because I run a business and we pay taxes out of that business, employer taxes out of that business. But you have to allow those people to pay back into the infrastructure of this city. So I am not opposed to collaborating with your colleagues in Nashville to start turning the tide and saying to Nashville, we have to create from Nashville an opportunity for Memphis to benefit from the Tri-City area of Memphis, West Memphis, and DeSoto County. It has to be that creative. It cannot be a regressive tax of gas or food. It has to be something that allows mostly employees to pay into the system. For example, Touche, we pay taxes to Mississippi for anyone that works in Memphis who lives in DeSoto County. Mississippi is collecting. Then Memphis should collect from that. And that is one source, long term, but one source of creating revenue that would allow people who work in this city but do not share in it to contribute to the infrastructure of this city.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and I apologize, I've got a couple more questions coming out of that.
Yeah.
Nashville is experiencing record growth. You can pull into Nashville, you probably count about 40 cranes in the air, and we're talking about real cranes. We're talking about they're adding to the skyline in Nashville.
Yeah.
But Nashville has used minimal pilots.
Yeah.
In the whole scheme of things of getting that growth. What does Memphis need to do to spur growth back in the city?
Well, that's interesting. So I was in Nashville just 2 weeks ago at a convention, and I was on the campus of Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt has this newspaper called the Vanderbilt Hustle, or Hustler. And in that in that newspaper was an article about the growth of Nashville. And even though the typical Nashvilleian is now being removed because there's so much industry coming into, especially the West End and downtown area of Nashville. But then I think it was Evanoff that did an article in Memphis about 3 weeks ago that, or it was actually Spence Wilson, who was one of the primary characters in an article recently that talked about Memphis has quite a bit of growth as well. The issue is Nashville's growth is really consolidated into a 3-mile radius. So you see it all. Whereas Memphis is from the river to Ridgeway, and it's spread out. But we have a lot of projects that are going on. I think pilots are good. I have no problem with pilots. I do have a problem with, again, that's one of the things we will look at. I'm not quite sure that pilots should be given out for 17 and 20 years, tax freeze for 17 and 20 years, and then no real evidence of real job creation. I think you have to lure businesses into the city, because if we don't, Nashville is going to do it. Pilots are a way of the present tense, and all cities are being competitive with that. But I think that we don't have to give away everything. So I am pro-pilots. I think the problem with the past administration was they were not able to articulate what pilots really meant to the average person in Fraser or Douglas or Uptown or Smoky City. Those people didn't see the residual effects of that. And I think we have to be able to articulate that and then show what pilots can do for people in North Memphis. So I'm pro-pilots. I think that they're crucial. But back to the revenue-based question earlier. I said a lot, but I didn't say one of my, again, primary premises.